let's just pick up on those results from the local elections, if we can. I mean, we've got a historically unpopular Prime Minister. The Labour Party should have done better, shouldn't they?
We've made huge strides, especially when you compare where we were at the last general election, where the Labour Party had a near-death experience. And you mentioned the results in London. Of course, there were remarkable results in places like Westminster. Here I'm sat in Labour-run Westminster. Who'd have thought it? But I'd argue, even as an MP on the London-Essex border, that what happens in London is less significant than some of the amazing results we saw in those places that we need to win back. Cumberland, the new Cumbria Council that includes constituencies like Copeland, Workington, Carlisle, the Red Wall seats that Labour needs to win back, they went to Labour. If you think about the original Red Wall that fell in Scotland, Labour now in second place, giving the SNP a run for their money in places like Glasgow. So, look, we're not complacent about this, and I don't want anyone who either cast their vote for Labour or is yet to be persuaded to vote Labour that we're cocky or complacent. We know there's more work to do to win the next general election, but compared to where we were, compared with the breach of trust that occurred between Labour and our traditional supporters, as well as those who tend to float as voters from one election to the other, I think we've got a remarkable result here, huge strides forward, and Labour is in a position to build on that ahead of the next general election, to be in a position to win the next general election.
I mean, everyone would say that strides have been taken, but on the general election, you'll know that the extrapolation says that it would be a hung parliament with this kind of result. And the Red Wall, come on, Wes, it hasn't been rebuilt, has it?
I don't doubt there's more to do, but, you know, Cumbria, Hartlepool, where we had good results that would have delivered a Labour MP, Sunderland, where the Tories really went after us, hoping to bring down that Labour council, didn't happen. And of course, it's not just the Red Wall where we've made advances. If you look further down south, places like Worthing, where I think 5 years ago or so, we didn't have any Labour councillors, is now a Labour council. If you look at Southampton, where there's two constituencies there, one of which we need to win back, advances there. So, as I say, we're not complacent about it, we're not cocky about it, but compared to where we were at the last general election, really important strides. And I mean, the other result I would point out as well, which I think really stands out in terms of the progress we've made, is Barnet. Significant Jewish population. I went across to campaign there a couple of times myself, and I was struck by the fact that compared to where Labour was on the issue of anti-Semitism, for example, to be honest, I felt a huge sigh of relief that Jewish voters felt able to return to Labour, many of whom, lifelong Labour voters, felt let down previously, have seen the advances, seen the changes that have been made under Keir Starmer's leadership, and feel they can call Labour their home again. So these are important strides forward. You mentioned what would this mean if there were a general election. You're right, hung parliament, Labour as the largest party. Well, that is remarkable progress in 2 years or so of Keir Starmer being leader of the Labour Party. Of course there's more to do. I don't want to sound the least bit complacent about that, but I think that's what the next period of Keir's leadership in opposition is about. It's about building on the progress that's made and turning the hostility to the Conservatives in government, a desire to see the Conservatives out of government, which is what I think these results show, into a hunger and appetite for a Labour government. There's more work to do, no doubt about that, but we've got firm foundations from which Labour can win the next general election.
Thank you, Wes. We know that you're not complacent. Is that work going to involve some kinds of alliance? You know that you're way off in Scotland. Have you thought about a political alliance with the SNP?
No, we're in completely different places to the SNP on the fundamental issue of the future of the United Kingdom. No deals, no pact, no compromise on that. And look, we're in it to win it. We want to win the next general election outright. I think these results do provide us the foundation in which to do that. But we're not interested in backroom deals or stitch-ups. And when it comes to the SNP specifically, we are very, very clear about where we stand on the future of the United Kingdom, the future of the Union. And now, following these results in Scotland, it's very clear that it's Labour giving the SNP a run for their money. The Conservatives in Scotland have fallen far back, not least because they've been trashed by their own leadership in Westminster and have a weak and spineless leader in Scotland. And I think actually it's the Labour Party now that provides the way forward for the future of the United Kingdom, where people can actually vote not just to oppose the Tories in Scotland through the SNP, B, they can vote to replace the Tories in Scotland by voting Labour at the next general election.
OK, Wes, that's on the local elections. Thank you very much for that. Now, I've got to ask you about the situation facing Sir Keir Starmer. And before I ask you the question, I'm not comparing the two situations. Make that very clear. But if Sir Keir Starmer is fined for having broken lockdown rules, should he resign?
I really don't think it's going to come to that because the police have looked at this before. I don't see any reason why now they would draw any other conclusion to the one they drew when they were last asked to look at this, where they looked at it on the basis of the complaint, said no case to answer, no action to be taken. That's what I expect to happen this time. Of course, we'll fully cooperate with the police, give them all of the information they need to make their conclusions. It's right the police are looking at this, and I think they'll come to the same conclusion they did last time.
Now, Wes, you know, there's always a tweet for these situations. Sir Keir had tweeted that after months of denials, the PM is under criminal investigation. He needs to do the decent thing and resign. I mean, he's under investigation now, isn't he?
But it wasn't the fact that the Prime Minister was simply under investigation. We'd had months and months and months of the Prime Minister denying there were any events in Number 10. That was proven to be false. The Prime Minister was proven to have lied to the House of Commons, and that in and of itself is a resignation offence under the ministerial code, and it's one of the many, many reasons why Boris Johnson should have already resigned. In this case, we have been clear, and Keir has been clear all the way through, that no rules were broken. This was a desperate attempt by the Conservatives to muddy together events that were a year apart in very different circumstances. We will provide the police with all of the information we need, but we are really confident that they will reach the same conclusion they did last time, because Keir Starmer is someone who is honest, who practices what he preaches, and I think in this case, once the police have done their work, Keir will be vindicated, will move on, and actually pressure will mount on Boris Johnson. I mean, why on earth that man is still in Number 10, I don't know, but maybe the fact that Conservatives have suffered a humiliating defeat at this election might concentrate the minds of Conservative MPs to grow a spine and give the country better leadership that we deserve.